isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators, where we sit down with special guests and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so that you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Greg.
Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking to others in the wedding industry. This episode is sponsored by With Jack and Pick Time, but we'll go into that a little bit later in the show. Gregory, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Who are we talking to today?
We are talking to our good friends Oli and Steph. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hello, Oli and Steph.
Hey chaps.
Hello.
How are you doing?
We're doing great. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're pretty good. We're a little bit tired this morning. We had quite a long elopement day yesterday, but we're very excited to be chatting with you two today.
Yeah, Simon, I missed the silly introduction for Greg. I love the silly names you normally give him. My favourite ever was Gregosaurus. I always think of it as Gregosaurus.
Yeah, well, he stopped at some point.
I don't know what made me stop, but...
Bring them back.
He just ran out of jokes. He ran out of patter.
It just became insult after insult.
Nah, Simon will never run them.
So is this physically tired or mentally tired from the elopement? Was that a big hike?
It wasn't a massive hike, but it was just a day. So they had guests with them, and so it was just a bit more coordination required, and the weather was a little bit temperamental, so we weren't really expecting rain. And then as we got to the ceremony spot, this massive shower just came through as we started the ceremony and soaked everyone, so we were running around with jackets for everyone because they had a lot of elderly guests and trying to coordinate everything.
There was a sneaky rain shower. That one wasn't showing up on the radar.
It was not.
Yeah.
But it was all good, and the sun came out for them and everyone dried off. But it was just a long day.
I'm physically tired from the gym. I stupidly did a massive gym session, a big leg day, the day before the elopement.
You bold person.
Yeah,
what
I'm
are you
still
doing?
struggling a bit from that.
So you said legs. What are you? If you go to a gym, don't you?
Yeah, we're really lucky actually. So we live up here on Skye, and although Skye is quite wild and rural, there's actually a really well-equipped gym 10 minutes from our home. They've got 4 different racks in there. So there's plenty of equipment. Yeah, so it's I'm a real sucker for just those big core moves, the deadlifts, the squats. It's kind of, I sometimes just do them and then just whatever I fancy around it.
Yeah,
I
fair
just
enough.
stayed home in bed that day.
Nah.
Well, yesterday.
Yeah, but generally you're very motivated.
Yeah. Those are definitely my two sides of my personality. I'm definitely on the fitness train at the moment, doing exercises in the rack at home. My wife's a PT, that's great.
Yeah.
But then when I'm off it, I'm well off it. I'm not moving, I'm in bed, I'm just procrastinating. It's great.
You're an all or nothing guy.
I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Yeah.
So guys, before we get too far, on you go. There's a delay.
No, I was just going to say I love that, Simon. Work hard, play hard. But sorry, Gregosaurus, go back to it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before we get too far, we all know each other well, but for the listeners who maybe don't know you guys, tell us who Oli and Steph are.
Sure. So we're Oli and Steph, and we live on the Isle of Skye in Scotland. We've lived here for nearly 5 years now. And so we work here as elopement photographers, videographers, and we also do all-inclusive planning as well for our couples. And besides elopements, we shoot couple sessions. We have a lot of people coming here for their holidays and wanting nice pictures, proposals, baronals, that kind of thing. And we live here with our 2 dogs in an old croft house, which is great most of the time, apart from when things start going wrong with it, which has been happening recently. And prior to this, we worked in completely different careers. So I used to work in conservation. I used to be a seabird biologist working in Antarctica, trying to save creatures down there. And Oli, I'll let you.
Yeah, I used to be a chef, and I kind of morphed that into. I was obsessed with photography the whole time I was chefing. So I started off in colleges, learning my trade, and then I worked in restaurants, and I worked my way up to sort of a Michelin restaurant.
Nice.
And then I started doing private chefing because, to be really honest with you, there's a lot more money in that. And then I realized I could travel as a private chef. and I loved photography. So I was kind of, at that point, I turned myself into an adventure chef, and I was using it like as a way to get to cool places to do epic landscape and wildlife photography. And it took me to Antarctica, and actually sub-Antarctica is where I met Steph. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize you met there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Tell someone a bit about that.
Yeah. So it was, I think, when was it? 2015. And so I was down there for 13 months, and I just started my new contract. And then Oli came down to work on this project, but it was a shorter term project. So when we met, I think we only had 6 weeks together on the island before Oli came back to the UK for like 9 months, and I had 9 months left. So he was trying to win me over. It's quite funny because there were about 5 girls and about 40 guys. So there was
competition was hard.
Competition was hard.
I was training. That's the most I've ever trained in the gym, guys. Like I was just training so hard because I wanted to be an absolute specimen to try and get Steph's attention. It worked.
Yeah, there's a saying in Antarctica that for women the odds are good because there's plenty of guys, but the goods are usually quite odd. So kind of like takes some out of the running. But Oli won me over. He made me a handmade box of chocolates, like truffles that he'd made from scratch, and like gave me them. I was like, sold, definitely. But that was the only time he's ever done that in 10 years.
And I guess like the important take home from that was that we really we fell in love and bonded over photography. So we were always trying to sneak away from the respective jobs we were doing to go and
take photos,
photograph penguins together, photograph albatross together. And so I think when we came back to the UK, we started to think about like how we could make a living from photography together.
Yeah.
Did that spark your moving up to Skye like instantly? Was that like a thing you knew you wanted to do, or was it more of a slow burn that got you up to Skye?
It wasn't straight away. So we came back to the UK together in 2016, and then we went traveling for a few months. We went to New Zealand and China and just kind of had some time together.
Check that we still like each other.
Yeah, check we still liked each other.
Yeah.
And then over the next few years, so I was working in conservation. So I was working for the RSPB, doing albatross conservation. Oli was still doing some chef work, but also going to Antarctica every single year for 3 months or so, doing expedition work. And some of that was photography. But we always knew that we really wanted to live in a remote environment, because Antarctica is kind of the most remote you can get. And so we were living in Bedfordshire, like in the middle of town. Our front door opened onto the street. We love mountains, we love the ocean, and we were kind of as far away as you can get from pretty much all of those things. So it was always a plan that we wanted to move up to Scotland, somewhere more remote. But with my conservation work at the time, I was very tied into being at the head office, which was there. So it wasn't really until COVID hit and our bosses got way more relaxed about needing to be in the office. And then we were like, quick, let's move. And so that was in 2020 was when we decided it's time to go now. And so we moved up in the middle of 2021 up to Skye.
Yeah. Awesome. And we had shot some elopements on Skye, hadn't we? We shot maybe 2.
But no, well, we'd started more elopements in 2020, and so we shot a handful on Skye, Glencoe, the Cairngorms that year. But it was a lot of driving from Bedfordshire every single time.
I can imagine.
We didn't really want to sustain.
Yeah, I've got memories of, trying to embrace social media and doing stories on Bedford Common with the dogs and encouraging people to elope to Scotland.
This doesn't really work. Kind of sucks.
There's a bit of a disconnect there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your elopement, because did that have any influence on being elopement photographers?
Yeah, it definitely did. Because before we eloped at the end of 2018. And so before that, we had been shooting bigger weddings around Bedfordshire. So we were doing that like 2016, 2017. And we just saw how stressful big weddings can be for some couples, having to manage 100 guests and just the lack of time that you get together on the day.
Yeah.
And so we got engaged in Hawaii. So we were supposed to be going on this conservation project. It was like an 8-week project. We were going to go out to this remote island called Midway Atoll, which is middle of the Pacific. And that was where Ollie was going to propose to me.
Had it all planned out, guys.
And it went a little bit wrong, didn't it?
Yeah, so that year, the company that you can only get to this island on a private jet, which is pretty cool. But the company that fly the jets went bust the day before we were due to fly out. So that winter we got stuck on mainland Hawaii. We couldn't go and join the conservation project. And so we were like really crestfallen, really, sad about this. And so I managed to cheer us up. I just proposed to Steph. Was it on Christmas Day?
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. Steph used to study these beautiful birds called albatross. And that's actually, Steph and I bonded over that. My late father studied them as well. So they're really special creatures to us. And we hiked out to an albatross colony in Hawaii. And I proposed there. And so
it's kind of funny because I almost refused to go because I wanted to go. And then he was like messing around all day, and it was getting so late, and I was like, "Well, there's not enough time to go. There's no point going now. I don't want to go anymore."
We argued about the pineapple. I really wanted to visit this pineapple plantation.
I would to buy pineapple ice cream, and I was like, "That will take us like 2 hours extra." I don't want to do that, but then we ended up going.
Worth it.
I refused to have any ice cream.
Incredible.
But then by the end of the night, I was happy. So But anyway, so we got engaged there that year. And then the following year, we were like, we're going to try again. We really wanted to go and do this project. So we flew back out and we thought, you know what, while we're there, like, why don't we just get married there? Like, just do it. And you can't do it on the actual island because it doesn't really fall under any particular like country's jurisdiction properly. So we thought we'll go back to the spot that we actually got engaged at.
This is Midway Steph's talked about before.
So we got back to Hawaii, and we were only there for 2 days, but it's super easy to elope in America. Like, you just fill out a form, pay $40, and then our friend who was working on the conservation project could get ordained to legally marry us. So it's a bit different to the UK in that regard. But it's really nice, and we spent our elopement day, we just got ready together in a hotel room.
Yeah. Steph surprised me. She'd hired a sports car. It's like a red Mustang. And
nice.
It was so cool. It had like little lights that projected from the door, didn't it, onto the ground a little.
I usually make us get like the cheapest car, and I'd hide it from budget cars. And he was like, which rental is? I was like, budget cars. He was like, okay. So we went up to the desk, and the guy was like, what color Mustang would you like? And he thought he was joking. He was like, haha, like, what shitty car have we got today? And I was like, no, really.
So we cruised to the beach in this beautiful red sports car. And we hiked out to this albatross colony
in the pouring rain.
And it rained.
So
it rained
drenched
all the way to Hawaii, and it rained on our day, but we didn't care because we were just having such a fun day. And it just felt so carefree, and very stress-free. You know, we had started photographing some big weddings in the UK at this stage, and we saw how stressful those events can be. Still amazing, but in comparison, this just felt so liberating and carefree. And I think at that point, we realized that's what we wanted for the couples we were working with going forward.
Yeah. And I think it suits our personality better as well, because we just love being in the outdoors. We like hiking, spending time in smaller groups. We're not massive party people anymore, so it's kind of a nicer way of doing things. And since then we did shoot some bigger weddings in 2019 that we already had booked in, and after that, you know, with the whole COVID, every wedding we had was cancelled in 2020, and we thought, you know what, let's not go back to the big weddings. Let's just go to elopements. Yeah,
obviously, like, COVID was a terrible time, you know, and it hit our families hard as well. But it did also give us an opportunity to really think about our business. Particularly, well, for me at that point, you were still working full time, weren't you? But it kind of, provided a good window to really think things through and embrace elopements and pivot towards elopements.
Yeah. And now you've taken that to very successful heights, so much so that you're also now coaching, which you didn't mention. And I suppose we'll maybe talk about your work first and talk about your coaching a bit after, because I do think what you have to say about coaching will be quite enlightening for a lot of people.
Cool.
But tell us about your photography. It's not like many others in what people might imagine a Scottish elopement to look like. You know, it's not the dark and moody aesthetic that we're so used to seeing in Scotland. And I'm intrigued if that was intentional or anything. So tell us about your photography.
Yeah, I mean, like, we love it. Personally, I love it when people tell us that, because it was intentional. So it's great that you've recognised that in our work.
Okay.
Obviously, like, the Scottish elopement vibe often is very dark and moody. I think most Scottish elopement photographers out there are in some way trying to emulate Dylan Kitchener, right? Who is let's face it, he's the god at that aesthetic. Yes. And obviously when we started, we were heavily influenced by, I mean, like, the dons of what we're doing, right? The Carrolls, Dylan Kitchener, Sean Bell, their work is insane, and they all embrace that aesthetic.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because when we shot big weddings and when we first started elopements, our style was pretty similar to as it is now. You know, like, we have like much richer colors, more true to life. And then as we got more into the scene, we're like, oh, maybe this isn't what people want. Maybe this is wrong. So
we got the strong pro mists on the lens.
Yeah, so we started moving more towards that side of things. Yeah. And then we kind of just, our work is looking like everyone else's, and it just isn't, it doesn't fit us, and also our couples. We work with a lot of American couples, and a lot of them prefer the brightness and the richness of our work compared to some of the dark and moody stuff.
Yeah, so they're telling us sometimes they'll tell us sometimes that's why they've booked us.
Yeah, for editing style. So it took a couple of years, but then we ended up going back to our current style. And we actually worked with someone to help us kind of get to that style and come up with a preset that worked for us.
Yeah, shout out to Tom Wright, who's brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, he does a lot of workflow stuff as well. So he's a really good guy.
And I'd say, guys, the thing about that as well is our preset is very adaptable. Like, we don't have to tweak it too much for each couple, which has sort of accelerated our workflows. And it's good in all weather conditions, So obviously we love it when we get that dark and moody look on Skye, and we embrace it and we go for it. And yeah, of course, we're super excited. But, you don't always get that. Even though we're on Skye.
It's been sunny for weeks.
Yeah, we just have 3 weeks of California sunshine. And so, you've got to be able to shoot in those conditions as well. And it's important that you can edit like that. And because we show that as well, then it means that our couples don't come to us just hell-bent on dark and moody, and we can work at whatever weather's thrown our way.
Yeah, because I feel like if you only show dark and moody work and then you get the blue sky days, for clients, maybe that could be even a little bit disappointing, that the fact that their images don't look like what's in your portfolio. So we do, we show all of our couples, we don't
and all of the
curate
weather
so heavily on couples and conditions. Like, we will show everybody because we think everyone deserves to be shown. And so, it's kind of a big part of what we want to convey with our work.
Yeah, there's definitely, we did so much wedding photography education, and you hear it so much, like, only show what you want to shoot. And I guess that does work, but yeah, for us, we want to shoot everyone and we want to be able to shoot in any conditions. So that's what we show.
Yeah. And I guess we only show elopements and couples, but that's all we do shoot. So we're showing what we want to shoot in terms of that.
So I was going to say,
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at your website now. I'm like, so for a while there has been this kind of uptick in people wanting to see greens again.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a few years ago that started. So it is kind of, it is interesting because I do love your images. I love how fresh they feel. Especially this might sound mad, right? But I'm a big Star Wars fan. And so I love the way that those Star Wars films are colored. And it feels very similar in some of your portfolios when you're seeing those greens and the sky colors, and it's actually real to life, but obviously enhanced, an enhanced realness, rather than the other side of me, which is the dark and emo side of me, which I love. I love the dark and emo stuff.
No, Simon, I don't mean to cut in there, but throughout our whole process, we've gone through that. When we were really embracing this, there were definitely many days where I would just go down rabbit holes looking at everybody else's work and then flick back to our work and be like, oh my God, ours just looks so colourful and over vibrant and
hate everything.
Yeah, and I hate it all.
And I'm like, delete Instagram from your phone. Stop looking at Instagram.
But we stuck to our convictions. We stuck with it, and now I look at our portfolio and I love it to bits. And I'm able to go and look at somebody else's work that like I truly admire, like the names we mentioned before. And I still love it for what it is. And in a different life, maybe I'd shoot like that. And, you know, we can shoot personal work like that and stuff, but this is the aesthetic we've gone for. I love that you use the word fresh. And we do love the greens. I think for us, you know, like the mantra of your podcast, was it create work that's, remind me, the goal is not to live forever, but to make work that lives forever. So, is that right? Something like that?
Yes. What is that?
Because I don't know.
You guys know. That's. But my point is, sorry, Simon. But my point is that that's what we want. You know, we want to show Skye as it really is. We want to show the greens. We want to show the sunny weather if that's what they got, so that their work does last forever and their wedding albums still look incredible in 10, 20, 30 years, rather than a stylized look that might be cool right now, but perhaps isn't going to last the decades.
Yeah. So was your coloring like a pure business decision then? I'm slurring my words a little bit because I feel this is the balance, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on this. It's the balance between the artist and the business person in me. That the business person is non-existent in me. I am my business person inside of me is like an inch big. It's tiny. Whereas I love to feel like I'm creating for myself, and I like the dark and moody stuff. But I am starting to feel like it's like those two halves of me are fighting quite a lot. And I don't know how to settle one side or the other. So can you talk to that side of balancing the artist with the business and how you've managed to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say you need to go into business for someone who balances you out, Simon. And I believe Greg does that. I think you two.
Greg does with his Mickey Mouse top.
I try to.
His Mickey Mouse top.
I would be screwed if I was on my own. Like I started off definitely as a bleeding heart artist. I would spend weeks and weeks on galleries re-editing, and I probably wouldn't have got anywhere if I wasn't luckily married to Steph, who just has immense.
Marry Steph.
But she has immense business acumen. And, you know, I like that you use the word balance, because we always think of like a scale, you know, and you have artistry on the one side, business on the other, and you got to decide like where you want to put those scales, where you want to balance them. Do you want to be the artist more, or do you want to be more of a business person, or do you want to find some balance? And I think for us, we have perfect balance between us.
Yeah, because we've got lots of different friends in the industry, and some of them, I would say, they are incredible artists. But when we talk to them, and talking behind the scenes in terms of their business, they're not always necessarily doing that well in terms of business and profitability. And I just think that's crazy, because you're so good.
So
like you're way better than us, and yet you're struggling on that side.
I will fully admit that is us.
Yeah,
we are probably. I mean, I think we just talked to the financial guy, and we are not in the profit for this year. And I'll be completely honest with that. Greg's like, don't tell people that. Don't tell them that. But that is the case, where probably my artistry, beside the one that has the big ego, I feel like has made the business side suffer quite a bit. So I also reckon that I am not alone in that.
Like, as you say, there is a lot of photographers and filmmakers that you look at, and you look at their work, and they're running a sustainable business, and it's doing just fine. It's been for years, like us as well. Yeah. But you can, like you guys especially, can see where that could go. It's like you could be doing so much more with your revenue and turnover and all that stuff. It's like, but
definitely
when you're solo, like a solopreneur, and it is from a creative point of view, it is hard. Whereas you've got the perfect balance of the two of you together.
Yeah. But I would say, when we started our business, neither of us had done anything to do with running a business before. We didn't know anything about SEO, websites, social media, like none of it. We didn't know anything. Yeah. And I remember, I think it was probably in 2020, we joined the Marketing Fix, by Melissa Love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She has this membership. So I joined up to that, and I don't know where you were. You were away working somewhere, and I was on when they had like these meetup calls. You could like discuss things in your business. And I am not usually an emotional person, but I ended up in absolute tears on this call being like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, we need this money because Ollie's like job had been cut because of COVID, and just felt completely lost with it. And I look back to that now and I think, oh my gosh, like when you compare yourself now to how you were a few years ago, like you've made massive gains. And I think for everybody, even if you feel like you're not doing amazingly, if you look back a few years and just think, wow, like look where we are now, then you're really going to see that improvement. But you have to work at it. Yeah. No one just knows this stuff. Like you need to learn it. And it's definite. I think most photographers are artists more than, business people. But if you want to have a successful business, you have to work at it. And for us, education's been a massive part of that. We threw ourselves into getting educated in wedding photography as soon as possible. Like, I think the first education we ever did, Ollie went to Sam Docker's one-day workshop, probably in 2016, 17.
Yeah.
And that kind of started things off for us. But since then, we've had so many different people that we've learned from. And I feel like that can really fast track you, and not just looking at artistry side. You do need to go down the business route.
You can explore avenues beyond other photographers as well. Actually get interested in business and marketing, start reading books, listening to marketing podcasts, get genuinely interested in it.
Yeah, because it kind of sounds boring, right? When you're like, ugh, have to learn about marketing, have to learn. It does. It is like
it sounds like work.
When you don't know anything.
This is famously not a work job. This is like, I'm taking my camera and I'm going to take some cool pictures. That's what I thought I was getting into. No, nice.
That's what everyone thinks.
Being self-employed is well too much work. What the fuck?
Yeah,
I'm always working at night. Oh, terrible.
You've got to think long goal. If you can make the money from your business, then it will pay for that artistry side of it more. We invested in a new film camera this year. We spent $5,000 on a Canon C80, and nice. if our clients are paying us $10,000, a time, then that means we can afford to buy top end gear, and then we can use that ourselves in our own personal projects and romance the camera and romance an expensive camera. Is that fair? Well, I just think ahead.
Yes.
You're still trying to justify it to Steph, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, like, full disclosure, Steph and I were such a solid couple, and like it can be tough, because we're married, but we're also business partners, and we live together on Skye, and we get on so well. But the only time we have massive arguments is normally when I want to buy some new gear. It's the thing it's like the thing we have to work. It's our Achilles heel in our relationship.
There's always a lot of things on the list.
Do you have a technique for wearing Steph down, or is it more like a subtle hint?
I'm not going to say them. I'm not going to give them away on the podcast, because she sat right here.
I know them.
I have a subtle technique. I'll tell you. Right?
Yeah.
So if I want a piece of gear, I put it in very practical terms. I won't be able to do my job unless I have this, Greg. Can you get this? Can we get this? Can we get this? Can we get this, Greg?
We'll never buy it if I decide we want to buy it.
No, we don't have any money.
Hold out, Greg.
Fine. I'll hold out long enough to make him sweat.
And Greg, but the trouble is, Greg knows his shit as well. He knows if a camera's capable or not. It's not like you're just trying to pass it by someone, like a partner who's not in the business or something. So
but
there's been a couple of things over the years where I've been like, if I buy this, you are using it. Like, you will use this if I buy it, and then he'll use it twice, and I'm like, see, you're not using it. Like, you've not used it again this year. Yeah, that was a waste.
Sounds familiar story.
For example, right? And maybe listeners of the podcast will understand our journey of, we wanted to be more client focused on a wedding day. So you get rid of as much gear as you need to get rid of to make you fast and nimble, and stripping everything back. the beginning of last year, I decided I want to be a cinematographer. I want to focus on my craft a little bit more. I can do the client stuff. That's great. I've got that down. I now need to embrace that. So I bought a rig for my camera, top handles, monitor, cables, batteries. We changed all the tripod plates. Yeah, built it all up. And then you're carrying around this huge big fucking camera all day, and you're getting sore and stuff, but that's fine because it's all kind of working, and you're like, well, I've got old eyes, I need the monitor, and then suddenly you realize over time that it is actually hindering you, and you're back to that mindset of like, why did I build this up again? I know my job is only wedding stuff. It's not like I'm doing commercial work. It's weddings.
The trouble I've got, Simon, is we love having our pictures taken. We love to get beautiful pictures of ourselves. So last year we had our pictures taken by Nina and Derek.
Oh yeah.
They're amazing photographers and beautiful people. And they came and stayed with us and did a photo shoot. But they were using 5D Mark IVs, and I've just.
So I'm like, you see,
I'm already trying to like pretend that my R3 is starting to date, and then. Nina and Derek are there shooting on the Mark IVs and getting like sublime imagery. And we did the same with Gabe McClintock, like, and what a photographer he is. But I think he was shooting mirrorless, but it was still, so.
Yeah. We definitely have a difference in that.
We've just booked a wedding with Derek and Nina. Yeah. So we're excited to work with them. That'll be good.
Yeah. Nice.
You need to get those guys on your podcast, eh?
I think I should. I think they've been on our list.
We chat to them a lot on Instagram, so I don't know why I've not been on yet.
This is our call. We're getting you on, guys. Yeah. We're getting you on.
No, but great.
Something like you guys have also like fast tracked to success, and it's clear that investing in that education was a big part of it, and even likes of investing in getting your own photos taken. It's for your own benefit, so you can have them in your house, but it's also to put yourself on the other side and feel how the couples feel. But going back to the education part, like a lot of photographers, they'll go to a workshop or they'll buy an online conference or something and they feel that's enough and they don't actually implement things from it. It's like, what advice do you have for them to actually take the action? Like you would think the investment is enough to be like, oh, I've paid £1,000 to come to this conference. I better do something from it. But not a lot of people do. So what advice do you have for them?
That's definitely an issue. And to be transparent, like we have done that ourselves in the past. We've like signed up to stuff and we're like, this sounds great, this online course, and then it sits there for years and you don't actually get onto it. But I think the key thing is you just can't delay. You just have to take action now. And I know you guys sometimes talk about books that you recommend later in the podcast, but I think right now it's probably a good time to mention like one of the books that we really love is called Eat That Frog, which is a weird name, I know.
Eat That Frog?
It's called Eat That Frog by a guy called Brian Tracy, some American guy. But basically the whole premise of the book is that every day you need to eat the frog, and the frog is the thing that you probably don't really want to do in the day, but the thing is that's going to make the biggest difference to what you are doing. So in your business, it's a thing that's actually going to give you results, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I'll just, make an Instagram post, that's important, or I'll do this. But actually, no, it's like, okay, I need to make this landing page for my website. That is the most important thing right now.
It's going to move you forward.
Move things forward. So eating the frog is really important. So I'd really recommend that book.
And we do that now. We'll try and do it every evening together. So we have a quick little 5-minute meeting. We use Asana and we have Asana boards. But I have one board and I have a little frog emoji on there. And every night we identify the frog. And, ideally that's the thing that you do first.
Yeah.
When I worked in like top end kitchens, it was always the top chefs, the guys, they're making a list the evening before. And they come in the kitchen and they already know what they're going to be getting started with the next day. So it's a good approach to take.
Because, we've all got the same 168 hours a week in our lives. Like everybody has that, from, the prime minister to like your grandma. Everyone's got the same amount of time. And so it's how you spend that time is going to be how successful you are. And I think with courses and other things, like you can often think, oh, well, I've got more important things to do. The course can wait. But if you buy that course and think like that all the time, you're never actually going to like get through to it and take action. I think when people actually do watch the videos for a course or go to a conference, they'll be like, yeah, this sounds amazing, but then don't actually take action. So I think that's the thing. You need to write down your action, and you need lists. You need lists of what everything is that needs to be done, and then prioritize that.
Yeah.
Another key thing.
Another trick I'd say is like introduce some level of accountability. So maybe if you've got, if you sign up to this course with a friend, if you know another photographer who's doing it with you, perhaps you actually schedule check-ins together. So meet up on Zoom. We've done this before, and you can talk about the course and what you've done that week and what you aim to do the following week. And I don't know, perhaps if you haven't got a friend on the course, you find some accountability somewhere else. So even if it's just a family member who, you're going to present to at the end of the week and tell them what you've learned and what you've moved forward.
Yeah, because I can't remember the stat, but the stats around, how more likely you are to achieve your goal if you have accountability, it's massive. Because if you're just in your own head being like, yeah, I'll do it, like it doesn't happen. Yeah. Even like non-business stuff, like going to the gym, if you're like, yeah, I'll go to the gym, maybe it doesn't happen. But if you're going with someone else, you're like, well, I have to go because they're going to be waiting for me. I can't let them down. So I think accountability is key, and then once you get kind of to higher points of business, I think business coaching, that's where this kind of thing really works. I was coaching a Scottish photographer last year, and she had all these ideas of things that she wanted to do, but I think they just never happened. It was all like ideas. And then when I was there every week, giving her accountability, being like, okay, how far have you progressed with this? It made her do so much work because she was like, oh crap, I've got my meeting with Steph tomorrow, better get things done. And I think that pressure and accountability is kind of one of the main keys to success. Exactly. So that's what you need, Greg. You need someone to make you do it.
But how, like you mentioned a few things there, like how do you divide up your roles in the business? Like who's doing what? Maybe talking more like not on a wedding day, just behind the scenes, admin during the week. Who's doing what part?
I'll start with this. Yeah, so we have some clear divisions, like even in our relationship. So because I used to be a chef, I do all the cooking. I to be honest, I know it sounds really harsh, but I hate it when Steph goes in my kitchen and makes a mess. And like, if I watch her cook and just what, I'm like, I can do that so much faster than you, more efficiently, cleaner, and the food will be nicer. And Steph is amazing at so many things, but I am a better chef. That's one thing.
Well, you're better. I'm not terrible though, but yeah, you're much better.
I'm also a little bit, I don't know if I'm OCD. Everyone thinks they're OCD, but I am, I'm a bit of a tidy freak. So with that, I'm quite happy. I take on like most of the house chores, right? Like the cleaning, stuff like that, which frees Steph up for more admin. I also take on, so like for our elopement days, we pack a lot of shit, guys. You guys have worked with us, we bring a lot to elopements. Our boot is full. And so I'll always, I've got thorough kit lists I go through for every elopement. So I'll do all the kit packing.
Clean the car.
Yeah. And then like when we started our business, I did the editing just because I think I was more into,
well, you had more experience in editing beforehand, so I was like, sure, you can stick with that.
But Steph, like with her previous job, she had a lot of experience with like admin and computers and managing, like managing our CRM, things like that. Steph took to it, like a duck to water, right?
Yeah. So I'd say So on a day-to-day basis, I do more of the admin side of things, but we've built a team around us as well. So we're not doing everything ourselves. So we have a full-time VA. So she takes on a lot of the admin side. She helps us with album design, social media, all of that kind of stuff. And so I effectively manage her. And so we have, regular contact, figuring out what she's doing. And then with the editing, so like Oli said, he used to do all of the editing. But again, we have outsourced a lot of that. And we've got a AI hybrid system. So we have an editor that we use, but we also use AI as well, because we did try human editors. That sounds funny, human editors. Like before, and like we were just never quite happy with how it turned out. But for the last few years, we've been using some AI editing just to help us. So we've been using Imagine for our general editing. And so we love how it comes out for us, because we've got so many images in there now. Like no matter what the conditions are, it tends to come out pretty good. So what we do now is we edit our previews ourselves, and then we send our entire galleries out to our editor, she culls it for us, and then she runs it through Imagine using our preset, but then she does all the cleanup, because we don't, I know some people say, you can just send it straight out of there, send it to the clients. But for us, we do a lot of cleanup. Living on Skye, especially in the summer, there is sheep poo in every single photo we take. And when we were doing it ourselves, I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired of removing sheep poo from hundreds of images. Yeah. So our lovely editor has taken that on for us.
Yeah.
But then Oli does the reviewing of that and does any Photoshop work. And
I still end up probably
tweaks.
spending like 2 or 3 hours on every gallery. So, each of our galleries is getting a lot of attention through Two Humans and Imagine. And like, shout out to Imagine. I think when we went with Imagine, that was a pivotal part of our business success, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Freeing up that time.
I used to take a week to edit a gallery, and I was like, well, if we have a whole week per gallery, that really limits how many you can actually shoot, because you can't shoot exponentially more. Whereas now, we can shoot almost as much as we want.
Yeah, like if anyone wants to reach out to us and talk about Imagine, that's something we can coach on. I think if you can embrace that, you're going to give yourself so much more time for business.
And I think for a lot of photographers from the artistry side, I've seen, people talking about AI editing and how they could never do it because it's taking away the control and it's taking away the artistry from photography. But we kind of disagree with that, because you can't, we use our own profile on there. It's built from our own work. And, if you want to spend all day tweaking sliders in Lightroom, you're never going to have a successful business. Well, could still be successful, but it could be way more successful if you're freeing up your time to, instead of be working on those like little tasks like that take hours and hours, instead you can work on the business and figure out how you're going to do your marketing next, like what's the plan for this. And so I think that's probably been one of our biggest successes has been outsourcing, so that we can free up our time to do other stuff and start other businesses and just have time.
Live your life as well. Have some time. If you want to be successful in this business and longevity, you have to have a healthy life and a healthy mindset. And that's not going to happen if you're staying up till 2 a.m. editing those sliders every night of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the tagline. Enjoy your life. We say that for a reason. Yeah, exactly. Many creatives don't. But so do you do Imagine through with your gallery? You also do video. Are you running the video through Imagine as well?
No.
So I know they have just started offering some video editing, but I think at the moment they're not only in Premiere Pro. Yeah. I think at the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas we're using DaVinci.
That's great.
It's coming though.
So we're waiting.
Yeah, it's going to come. I think. Yeah.
But we're definitely open to that. We're on the wait list and we're waiting to hear more about it.
So we outsource our film to human editors, but that is when Imagine embrace DaVinci, then we'll probably look into that.
Yeah.
Because we've started running through some of our videos through Imagine.
Yeah, it's exciting to see where it can go. Like obviously, it's at the coloring stage just now, which it is with photos as well, but like. That's going to improve over the years, and then what else can it do? Like, it's
hopefully removing shit poo. That should be the number
Imagine that.
Cars driving up the Kerrang. Get rid of that car from the video.
Shooting film. Film's so much tougher from that perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, one thing we haven't talked about is actually what you offer. You your pricing range. I know you do more planning than just like showing up and taking photographs. So talk to us about your package, your pricing, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So we don't just have one package. Like we have a range of packages because we feel like there's different clients want different experiences and different things included. And so our packages range from around, I think it's 3,300 is our lowest package. And then our highest package at the moment is around 13.5K. So it's a big difference between the lowest and the top package. The lowest package is basically just photography only, 3 hours. Usually it's just one photographer and it's like a very stripped back approach. We still help with planning, but in a minimal way. And then, up to our top package is multi-day coverage. They get photo, they get video, they get a really nice album. And we also include some planning in there. So they get a celebrant, they get flowers included, that kind of stuff as well. So there's quite a big range, but I think last year our average booking was around 9,500 total. But that includes the package price itself, but then also albums on top, because for us albums is really important as well. And so most of our couples do have album upgrades as well.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about albums, but I think you guys have seen what those packages look like, because we've worked with you guys, I believe, twice, right? Joe and Steve and Dawn and Al. So they both had big packages like that where we had sourced their celebrants for them, their flowers. And
and the reason we do that is we just think when we eloped, we found that really hard to be like, who can we find in Hawaii that's going to marry us? Like, where do we get this stuff from? And it was a bit overwhelming, and we ended up not really getting a lot of the stuff because we just didn't know how. And so for us, trying to just make the whole process simple and stress-free for the couples is really part of like the most important thing for us. So by us, finding their vendors for them, it just means they've got less to think about. It's good for us because we can work with the people that we really like to work with, that we know are going to be really great on the day. Because I think for elopements, that's really important. Getting a celebrant who's happy to stand out in the rain, or one that can hike up to the top of the mountain and not be like, oh wait, I can't do that, on the day. And then having the album at the end just really is just a great way to finalize your relationship with a couple, and they come out with something that's really tangible, as opposed to just sending them their pick time gallery and I think if you're doing that kind of package for your couple, you're building up a lot of trust throughout the whole process with them, so they become even more invested in you, and the relationship's always stronger, isn't it? I'd say like the couples that we work with that don't go for planning when it gets close to their days, not that they're stressed out, because we're still helping them, we'll still help them find vendors and stuff, but there's definitely a clear difference, right? And if we've prearranged all that stuff for them, it normally just goes so smoothly. And if it doesn't, we know how to react and sort any issues. But I would say, obviously there is a lot of work to doing that and adding that to your packages, because that's a whole other level of things that you have to organize on the day.
Hidden costs involved as well.
Like you've got to pay for those vendors. Sometimes those vendors might change their pricing. It obviously pushes up your income. So for people who are trying to stay below the VAT threshold, then
it's not advisable.
Pushing you right up, it just goes up so much so quickly, and you've got a lot of expenses coming out. But we just really like it because it, like Oli said, it just adds to the couple's experience, and it's helps us out as well.
Do you know what's interesting actually? And I didn't peg this when I was looking through. You have all your prices in dollars. Which
that's strategic.
Obviously, because most of your clients are Americans, or
I think maybe shout out to Rob Dyke over in Ireland. I think we learned that from Rob. I think it was Rob. He said, think about about probably 70% of the people we work with are American couples. So make it as easy as you can for those American couples on your website.
But when we do obviously work with UK couples as well. So when people inquire with us, if they're American, we'll send out their American pricing. And if they're from the UK or another country, we'll send them it in pounds. So when they see it, they understand it. Because I think for Americans, if they're like, oh, it's £5,000, they'll be like, well, how much is that? And then they've got to start figuring it out. So we just try and take away barriers.
And exactly. Easier. That's the key barriers, guys. You figure out if you've got an American couple looking at your website and two other photographers, any barriers that are in place could just be a reason that they're just going to flick off and go to the other photographer. So take any barriers you can. Just make it as easy and seamless as you can for people to book you.
On that, get nitty gritty and into the boring stuff about invoicing and accounting and that side. Then if you're showing them $1 price on the website, but you're having to do your accounts in pounds, how are you invoicing them then?
So we use Dubsado as our CRM. So we do all our invoicing through there. So basically what happens is once the couple choose their package, we will then create their invoice, but we'll use the exchange rate on the day that they've selected their package. And so we'll convert it ourselves into pounds, and then they will receive that invoice in pounds, but they know what it is in dollars. So we're not accepting payments because it just doesn't really, it's not really possible for us to do that. So it's a bit more work our end, because every time we have to make an invoice, we have to check the exchange rate. But it's a small price to pay for us compared to the couples, making it easier for them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Where are we on the questions?
I love how Greg went with the like nitty gritty business
He
questions,
did.
and Simon's like probably going back to the artistry question.
I just know that some people will be listening, going,
Yeah,
they can't invoice for $5,000 because then every payment will be slightly different based on the exchange rate. So
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, you made me think of like another business tip. Would definitely give anyone. If you haven't already, get yourself a decent accountant. That was a big breakthrough in our business. Having somebody on board who really understands your business. So our accountant actually works with other wedding photographers. So she's pretty sharp on it all. Hey?
Yeah, I think we got the recommendation from one of Rona, the celebrant. Yeah, so she used her, and we're like, oh, okay, well, maybe we can use her too. And then now, like, half of the Scottish Elopement photographers, I think, use her. But it is really good because when we first started, I was doing all the accounts, and then we went to limited company, and then we went VAT registered, and like, it's just so complicated. I'm like, I don't want to learn all of this stuff. Again, it's another one of those things where we would rather outsource that so we can spend time doing other things. And so that's been pretty helpful.
I mean, VAT threshold, that's something we should probably talk about, right?
You know what? That's where I was going. I was going to go and cover that because you obviously mentioned mindset about how people like to stay below. And then again, when you're like, well, if you're going to do this, it's going to push you're right above the threshold. So talk about mindset first off, because I do think a lot of creatives struggle with, or even have a fear of, well, they do have a fear of going over because they don't want to incur the thing, but they do limit themselves, and maybe that's a I'm not entirely sure if it's a self-belief type thing, or they've justified not wanting to go above it for any other reason. But talk to us about that on that kind of level.
Yeah, so I think mindset is it's a really important topic, and it does vary person to person. So everyone has different reasons why they are kind of like stuck, and money mindset is definitely like an issue. I think in the UK, no one talks about money really, and it's almost seen as like, oh, it's a bit tacky to talk about money, and so no one really knows like what other people are earning and what they're doing, and it's just not something really talked about, which we think is really not good because. At the end of the day, we all do businesses to earn money, to pay for our lives and our homes and our families. And so it is an important part of it. And I think with the VAT threshold, I don't know why. I just feel like there's so many, like I see conversations on Facebook and different photography groups, and so many people are like, oh no, I definitely don't want to go over that because then I lose money. And it's like, well, you don't lose money. Like you have to pay VAT, but you're earning more money. So and I know there is like a small sort of area when you're just above the VAT threshold where you could actually earn less, but there's a limit to that. And once you're above that, then it's kind of exponential, right? You can earn as much as you want. And there's a photographer, I'm not going to name drop him because he might, I don't know, we shouldn't really name drop him in this, but he was somebody who was going under the VAT threshold for years. He's one of the best photographers out there. We really admire his work. And then we had conversations about this, and he decided last year, okay, I'm just going to go for it this year. And so he was sticking around the 85K. It's 90K, I think now, isn't it, the VAT threshold? But he just told us he's already booked 300K for next year. And I'm like, there you go. And he's just like, why did I not do this years ago? And I think, people have that fear that they might not have as much money if they're stuck in that little gap. But if you really go for it, like there's so many examples of people who have smashed through that, ourselves included. And you just got to really go for it. But I think you need to speak to people who have done it and have those conversations. And you need to have a plan for it as well. Because if you're like, okay, I'll just go for it, and then you don't really understand VAT, you're not quite sure about things, then, maybe it's quite a scary thing. But if you have the accountant, you speak to other people and actually run your numbers and figure out how many extra weddings do I need to book to make this like worthwhile. And we put our prices up, obviously, as well. We didn't just absorb VAT. And we actually said on socials when we were about to hit it, we're like, okay, next month we're increasing our pricing, we're having to go VAT registered, so if you book now it's 20% cheaper.
We booked like
And we booked quite a lot of elopements. And was like, give me take my money before I have to pay more. And like since then, no one's really questioned it. And I know a lot of photographers are worried like, oh, well, it's going to make me more expensive compared to other photographers who aren't VAT registered, which is true. And our clients can't really reclaim the VAT, you know, not like commercial. But no one ever really says anything about it. Like, oh, what's this tax thing that I have to pay?
I think American couples are used to paying those taxes, and
you have to pay all sales tax.
And I think it also does add a level of professionalism to your outfit. You know, it shows you guys are serious if you're in that threshold, right, above that threshold.
Yeah. So
I think that is one of the big mindset blocks, is that people think, I'm going to have to just absorb this because I can't increase my prices 20%. Like, that's crazy. Nobody will book me. So, and it's just mindset. Like, people clearly pay the extra. Like, they're happy to pay more than what they're paying normally. So it's just a mindset thing.
Yeah.
For those people out there, sorry, I didn't interrupt. There is a slight delay. I was just going to say, there are many filmmakers in particular who are not charging enough. And I think are still struggling with bookings. Can you speak to that? Try and encourage them in any way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think when you're charging not very much and you're kind of putting yourself at the bottom of the market, then you're putting yourself in quite a difficult place, because people who have a healthy budget and they want to book a really good videographer, if they see your prices and they're like, oh, £500, it's probably not very good. Even if it is good, like just the pricing can kind of put you off. Yeah. And I think a good sort of analogy of that is, you know, when you say you're shopping on Amazon for something, like you'll type in what you want and there's so many options, right? There's always 100 different choices for each thing. And if there's one that's like £5, you'd be like, oh, that one's a bit cheap. Maybe it's not very, like, it's probably like some knockoff quality thing that might break. And then there's one that's like 50, and that's quite a lot. I was looking more sort of wanting to pay about 20. And then there's something around 20 in the mid range, and you're like, well, you know, it's not too expensive, but it's not super cheap. So that's probably the good one. That's what I should go for. And I think in sales psychology, you know, people tend to go in the middle a lot of the time. And so if you're putting yourself really low, you're going to miss a lot of couples who want quality, and they'll think cheap means bad, even if you are a good videographer. So that's kind of one thing.
And a couple of other points on that. So, you know, if you're in that cheap range, you're going to have to book so much more work to make the money, right? You know,
but I think a lot of the time, you know, if you are low priced, sometimes it's hard to increase prices, right? You're like, well, why should they pay me more? You need to show your value to those couples. Because say there's like 10 low price videographers, what is going to make you stand out above anyone else? And that you have to show that value. So what is it about your work that the couples want? You know, is it like, is it the actual deliverables? Do you give more than other videographers? Do you do more for them in the planning, the lead up? Is it just like your brand, your personality that make people want to book you? So you've got to figure that out and really show that value. And I think that is what helps lower price videographers, photographers raise their prices. Whereas if you're on the higher end, you need to add value, so add more value things, rather than just showing what you already have. And I think that's often where people fall down, is not actually communicating value. They'll be like, okay, here's some wedding films. That's it.
I think it is in some regards, it is a little bit tougher for videographers versus photography. You know, photography, obviously you've got album sales, prints, you can start to talk about it. It's a little bit tougher in that respect. But, you know, as a videographer, you could still be offering inclusive packages, you know, and just really thinking about the client's journey here. Perhaps you can help them find the photographer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and do like, you know, things like add-ons, like content creation for videographers. I know there's you know, a lot of people now doing standalone content creation. I know you guys have been doing some as like an add-on. I think that's a great idea, you know, because you've got to go with what people want. So if people are wanting content creation, offer it, and then you can increase your pricing because you're giving something else. But you know, I looked back at our numbers, and if we were charging what we charged in 2021 to make the money we made last year, we'd had to have shot 192 couples. And I'm like, that's
holy shit. Well, okay,
impossible.
So this is where someone might be interested, because the curious person in me is going to ask you, how much did you charge, and how much are you charging now, and what is your profit takeaway then versus now?
Yeah. So I mean, we already talked about what we're charging now.
Yeah, you did. Yes, but
so let me see.
It's more the comparison between the two.
Yeah.
Because I think people like to see like just how much of a difference someone can make.
Yeah, sure.
Because these are kind of nebulous terms like communicate your value and stuff. Whereas I think a lot of people struggle with the actual steps of doing that. And then, so if we can encourage them to actually like, this is the actual difference that you can see right here within a year's gap.
Steph said we've got a second screen going in a second month. She's actually put, because we did a presentation recently for a conference where so she's put the graphs up. But it reminds me a little bit, this is like, is it the Dragon's Den, that show that used to be on TV? And the dragons wanted you to know your figures. And if you didn't, you're out the door.
Get out the door. You need to know. Yeah. So this is in dollars. I won't convert it in my head. But so in 2021, our average couple spend was $2,600. with no album. So that was average. And then in 2024, average was $12,500. So we'd added like 10 grand per booking. Nice. And of that, about 2,500 was coming from albums in the package and 10,000 from the actual package itself. So we've gone up, pretty significantly. Yeah. And I think, from 2021, I think because we were kind of newer to it then. Yeah. So I think our turnover was around $45,000. And then last year we went over $500,000. So over 10 times as much. Yeah. And that's not profit, that's turnover. So with profit, it kind of depends on the year and stuff. But so we try to put as much money into our pensions as possible. I'm allowed to buy more camera gear.
That
takes away from the profits. But our profits have increased a lot as well over that time. But we're trying to really put that money to good use as well as
I think that's a good inspiration for people to see that it can be done as long as you're adding value to the package and value to your offering.
That's the key.
Because people have that fear of I can only increase £200 to £500 each year. I can't do anything more. Yeah. But to see that there has been companies out there that have went bigger jumps, and because you're offering more, it's possible. Like that should be good inspiration to listeners to be like, okay, I don't need to limit myself to just a small increase each year.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
Yeah. Now, I want... Sorry, again, I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to talk about the actual differences that you changed in your business to be able to make that jump. For those who might be thinking, I would love to be able to do that. I just don't know what to do. What was it that you guys did other than change your pricing?
Yeah.
I'll talk to one, which you guys know about, right? Because unfortunately we don't get to work with you guys anymore. So we used to work with videographers.
You took all the wind business away from...
And like I really enjoyed those. I just enjoyed hanging out with you guys as well. I remember
we loved your cooking most of all. Like when we got to stay at your house and you'd cook for us.
And my whiskey, right? I've got. I think I'm on to almost 3 whiskey cabinets in the house now. I remember we were staying up. I remember you guys I think there was a time you stayed at our house and we weren't shooting with you. You shot someone else's wedding, I think. And we stayed up till like 1 watching The Revenant while you were still important, studying the cinematography, texting Dylan Kitchener at the time. They'd be like, look, Dylan, look at this shot. And,
totally. Us just nerding out. It was great.
Yeah. But there was a point where, so we used to offer, we used to do GIFs. So if you don't know what GIFs are, it's kind of where you sandwich images together and you get like a few seconds of movements. And it looked cool, but we kind of questioned really like the longevity of that. It seemed a little bit faddy, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to see someone really killing it, check out Henry Chu's work, and that's somebody else you guys have to get on the podcast at some point. Someone we've always admired. Like, he is the don at that. But we kind of felt like there's two of us shooting elopements, and sometimes it felt like overkill, especially when it's just a couple and us. So we've got two photographers around them. As we got even better at our job, we realized we didn't always need two photographers. So we thought, let's start doing some film.
Yeah.
Right?
And like a lot of other people were like, guys, what are you doing? Like, why would you not shoot both? There's two of you. Like Joe Greenfield, who famously shoots hybrid all alone by herself. She's like, yo, like, why aren't you doing it? And I was like, okay, we really should think about it. And I guess it was, fear was stopping us. We're like, well, we don't know how to do video. Like, that seems like a massive thing, the editing, the whole thing. And then we decided, okay, well, instead of the GIFs, we'll just shoot short clips. And I think actually one of the elopements we had with you, that was when our package, we shot like 10-second clips and just gave that. And then it quite quickly escalated. It's like, well, if we're filming clips, why don't we just make a short film? And then things progressed. And so in 2023, we started offering it, and we did a few for free. And I think that's one of the things, when you're trying to figure out something new, sometimes it's scary to start immediately charging for something. And you're like, I don't know if this is going to be a quality product, especially if, you're happy with your photography, and then you're like, well, what if the video I make is absolutely terrible? The clients will be like, oh, this whole experience is marred by that. So I secretly shot video for a while at some elopements. I just make videos without even telling them we were making a video, which went down really well. Actually.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing to surprise
people
a couple
got some
with.
Nice videos, and then we decided, okay, we're just going to make this a part of the business. We don't do it for every elopement, but last year we did quite a lot. We did like 26 films. Last year, which was quite a lot.
We had it set too cheap initially.
The pricing didn't really make sense. So this year we've changed the pricing to account for the actual video, and because we have editing costs, so we've only got about 13 this year. And for C80. So I think just to run back to your original question, Greg. So I think try things out, like things that you think could add value. So for us, that was adding video to our packages. Selling albums is massive. And I think a lot of photographers don't do that. They'll make the gallery, just email it out, and that's kind of it. They're done. I know some photographers, will use PicTime and they'll sell through that. But if you're not talking about products, people won't generally buy them if they don't have any incentive to do that. So I think learning about sales, learning about how to make great albums and other products is really important.
There's actually companies out there now, like there's some photographers we've seen in America who will take the album sales for you. So if you feel you haven't got the time to do that, the headspace, the energy, obviously they take a fair cut, but if you're not making any money from albums yet, you're kind of denying your couples getting an album. So there's ways to put it in place. So I think just get started, basically. Just try things, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, we've tried things in the past and we're like, oh, and actually, you know what, we don't want to do this isn't helping us. The gifts were good. They took so long.
And I think it was a waste of time, basically. So I think just try things and talk to other photographers as well. And I think, again, going back to education, but there's always a thing, like, see what works for other people, and if it works for them, give it a try.
There's that you've got that quote you love, right? The surrounding yourself by.
Oh yeah. So there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but basically, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's true, so the people that you spend the most time with, they're going to influence you in terms of like your perspective on things, your confidence, and also like the choices that you make in life. And we feel that is very true. So we spend all of our time together, so we're the biggest influence on each other. But I don't think it just has to be people who are physically around you,
or even in the industry.
Well, it can be people who you look up to, people that you follow online. You might do their education, and for us, 3 of them, they're not even in the industry, but there's for us, there's a couple, they're called the Donegans, Alan and Katie Donegan, and they run a course called Rebel Finance School. It's like a free finance course. It's starting in June. And that completely changed the way that we run our business finances and our personal finances. And that has been incredible for us.
They're on YouTube.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. You can watch the courses on there.
They're incredibly lovely, humble people.
So those guys, and then I think as well as business, it's also really important that you keep yourself healthy, and that was a game changer for us. And so we listened to Live Better, Feel More podcast. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one, by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. It's so good. He's a doctor, and he interviews different people on different topics like every week. So it could be about sleep, diet, like mental health, like just loads of different topics. When we're editing, we listen, or driving, we listen to his podcasts when we're not listening to yours. And that, has given us some really good tips. And then finally, there's a guy called Andy Ramage, who he's a coach basically. But I've been following him since 2017, and he's had a massive impact on my life. I've done some of his courses, and we actually trained with him last year to become coaches ourselves over 6 months. And so he has had a massive impact on our life and on our business, even though he's nothing to do with photography, wedding photography. So I think you need to go out there and find these people, like find your tribe, and just really immerse yourself in listening to these people who are doing things that you want to do, or living in the way you want to live. And
I'd say you can find them in the industry as well. Surround yourself around, reach out to photographers you admire. It's so random because I think probably the photographers in Scotland we've admired the most, Sean Bell, Dylan Kitchener, the Carrolls, they've all become really close friends of ours. And it's kind of cool when you meet your idols and then they turn out to be like lovely people, right? That helps. But like attend things like Lisa Devlin's photography farm. We've hung out with you guys there. I remember we had a great night with you, Simon. You got absolutely smashed. I doubt you can remember it. We were drinking whiskey till the early hours, weren't we, in Glasgow?
It's about 4 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
I'm surprised you can remember because you were done, mate.
I think you were pretty far gone as well.
Steph was looking after us.
Yes, and I will always appreciate that, Steph. Thank you.
I don't know where Greg was that night. We missed you.
Greg had gone home.
I went home early.
I was going to say, you had a young baby, did you not, at that point?
He was fairly young.
Yeah.
I think Claire was passing by and she picked me up on the way.
That's right. Sensible. By the way, I looked at the Donegans, and you'll appreciate this, Greg, because one of them is wearing the Donald version of your T-shirt, which is hilarious.
That's a sign. I love it. That's a sign for you guys to do that course. I think.
I'm already subscribed. I cannot wait to dive into this.
So that all sort of leads on to Vow to Succeed coaching, like your new venture. What is it, and why have you decided to go down that route now?
Yeah, so it's a pretty new thing for us, Vow to Succeed. And so we launched our website last month. We spoke at a conference last month about it as well, in the US online. But basically what it is a coaching platform. And the reason we've done it is because, we've talked about this whole time this morning, for us, education has been the key to us, like having a successful business and creating the life that we want to lead. Like we said before, so many of our friends and other photographers are very much on that artistry track. Like you were saying before, Simon, the business balance with the artistry is often not very well balanced at all. And it kind of makes us a bit sad to see, but you guys could be doing so well. And I love the business side, and I think I've brought Oli more onto the business side as well. Yeah, so for us, being able to help other photographers to achieve stuff is really, really satisfying. And there's a term, I think maybe it was Rob Dyke who said this. Talked about the rising tide. I know a lot of photographers are worried about competition and helping others, and that will detract from what they have. But if we all rise together, if everyone's prices rise together and we're offering more, then that's going to help the entire industry. We want the days of when you charge £1,000 for wedding photography to be long gone. People were charging that 20 years ago, and some people just haven't really put their prices up. And it's not a living wage. So for us, what we want to do is help others to achieve success. But one thing we've noticed through most education programs is that it's all very general, and so it's based on, say, your success, and you'll say, this is how I built my business, do X, Y, Z. And well, that's fine, but it doesn't work for everybody. You can't build your business the same as someone else. Everyone has a unique market. They have unique context. Like everyone needs a different amount of money to survive depending on their living costs, and everyone has like a different definition of success. You know, for some it will be being a destination photographer. That's my definition of success. Whereas for me, I'm like, no, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to stay here on Skye.
Steph just wants to retire early.
You're in a destination already.
I know. Just move to a destination. Yeah. So for us, like through Vow to Succeed, we want to offer like really personalized coaching. So as opposed to mentorship, where it's like, okay, I'll just tell you what to do. It's more like proper coaching, which is based on like talking to you as an individual or as a company and understanding more about what your needs are. And it's about helping you to find the answers within you and then holding you accountable. So, really, I bet you do know in there somewhere, Simon, like what you need to do to become more profitable. Like what is the answer? So coaching is more about like trying to tease those answers out and help you to like frame what you need to do and then create a plan for that.
With a level of accountability.
So that's kind of what it is. It's more helping people to kind of really figure out what they need to do specifically. So we have that. And then for newer photographers, like it is harder, right? Because you don't know what you need to do because you're new. So we do have some mentorship style stuff for new photographers. And then because albums have been such a big part of our business, we've got a standalone thing for that, like reviewing people's processes and just like really helping them to set up a sales process so that they can give their couples the albums. The couples want them, you know, they want them. Like they're always so happy when they get that album. But I think photographers feel like it's an upsell that they don't want to do and they feel icky about sales. And I'm like, no, it's the couples want it.
Which when you really think about it, is bonkers because you've done the hard work. You've already created the beautiful images for the album. And if you don't do it, those pictures are just going to stay on your couple's phones and computer hard drives. They're never going to be printed.
Yeah. And it's funny, actually, we just got a Google review overnight and I just wrote down a little bit of it because I thought it kind of related to this. And they said, so Sarah said, they didn't just give us pictures and a video. They gave us heirlooms imbued with the joy and love they so clearly feel for what they do. I was like, that's so nice. But it kind of shows, you know, the fact they got that album, they see it as an heirloom and it is, you know.
Yeah.
I still look at my grandma's wedding album from like 60 years ago. Like it's important stuff.
Yeah, this is a bit sad, but my auntie passed away last year and we had to go and clear out our house and we didn't really need or want anything in there apart. I just wanted to find pictures. That's all we wanted. It was just like, where are the albums? Find the pictures.
Take those and the rest is just stuff, isn't it? So that's basically what we're doing with Vow to Succeed. And so we've, like, if anyone's interested, we've got a mailing list. So there's a little freebie on there about pricing psychology. So you can have a look at that. And then we're going to be doing more on this because it has been a very soft launch. We kind of haven't even mentioned it really on our photography socials yet. But we will be doing that and we'll be getting our social media up and running for that.
Yeah, just spending some time working out how to set this up sort of alongside our photography business and like how we market for clients within our business and then to other photographers. And it takes a bit of time. But
there's been a busy season so far because we've been doing that, but we're also launching our own Airbnb. So we've been very busy on that front as well.
Well, these guys know about that. Yeah, well, you guys know about this, right? Because when you stayed, I wanted to test out sleeping in the garage and see if it was viable. So I slept in the garage that night.
Yes.
Our garage is an Airbnb now.
Oh, amazing.
We fight. It's only taken us like almost 5 years, but it's there.
Yeah. I was going to say, talking about other buildings, how's your next door neighbours? Did they build their house? I know you were raging when they first announced they were going to be...
That's so funny you mentioned that, right? Because when we did our coaching qualification with Andy Ramage, he wanted volunteers in the course to coach.
Or be coached.
He was going to coach you so everyone could watch him coach. And he's a world famous coach now. So I managed to get in and I volunteered and I actually brought up this issue. So we bought this old Croft house on Skye, fell in love with this area. And then a few years after we lived here, a local builder managed to acquire some of the Croft land next to us. And he's built an absolutely massive house right next to us and destroyed the view a bit. And I found that pretty tough emotionally. Steph's just, you're way more emotionally tough and you didn't really give a shit, did you? But yeah, so Andy actually coached me in front of like everyone on this course about it. And so, I've learned to deal with it a bit. And it's definitely a first world problem.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
Although they did just move their chicken coop really close to our house, and so Ollie's got a little bit of rooster rage, getting angry with the rooster.
Oh man,
like, the rooster again!
The cockerel for like 4:30 in the morning.
I can just imagine you at night, like going through and just stealing the eggs. I'm going to get you back. Just get.
Yeah, I need to get like a weasel or a ferret and set it on the cockerel.
Oh no, that's horrible.
Terrible mindset.
Just so that we would not do that. No, but seriously, like it's
put a positive spin on
things
it.
change, and
I'm enjoying getting up early now. It's helping me get up really early, and like get on with my day, because that's kind of a positive.
It's your wake up call to go to the gym.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
literally.
now we're going to launch our Airbnb next door to them, so swings around the house.
We need a name for the Airbnb. Maybe it could be associated with the cockerel somehow.
Oh, I don't know. We're trying to think. It's really hard to think of a name for an Airbnb because there are so many accommodations on Skye and in Scotland, so you need something unique.
Yeah.
But
everything we think of is already gone.
So if you have any suggestions, let us know.
We need to ask ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
So on the coaching stuff, like you've soft launched, but you've coached a few people already, and I know during training you'll have to work with people. Is there any wins that you've experienced already that you can share with people?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean,
you mentioned someone.
I mentioned one person already who shall remain a little bit nameless, but the photographer who went from sticking below the VAT threshold to now having booked 300K for next year. Like that was definitely like a money mindset issue that we went through.
Yeah.
And then another photographer that I was coaching. So you're not supposed to like drop names too much.
Yeah, we can't.
Of course.
It's okay.
But anyway, there was another Scottish photographer. She was mainly shooting bigger weddings, but she lived in quite a remote place. And so one of her big aims was to actually move to a completely different place. And she wanted to start destination photography. And so since we did our coaching, she's done that. Like she's moved from the island she was living on. She's moved into kind of central Scotland and she's relaunching her business there. And she's done like multiple destination weddings since she started. So I'm like super proud of her and how she's gotten on. Yeah. And we've actually been coaching a lot of American photographers as well. Yeah, cool. And so one of those, she's a really established photographer. Like she's been photographing for 15 years. And she's got, like a multi-6-figure business. Like she's smashing it. Like she's doing really well. But she was kind of at that point where she was thinking about what's next and doesn't necessarily want to keep shooting all over the US and abroad for the next 10 years. And so we worked with her to kind of figure out what she could do next and where she could take her business. And so she's since then, she's launched, she actually wanted to do more elopement. So she's launched a whole separate elopement side of the business to kind of go away from the big weddings. Mm-hmm. And she's also managed to get herself doing a lot more speaking. She wanted to speak at conferences. So she kind of got the confidence to reach out to people and figure out who she needed to get to know to get into those circles. And so, things are going well for her as well. So it's really fun to see, they're like your children almost. You're like, well done, like you're doing it. Like,
do you think it's almost harder for someone who's been photographing for 15 years to make the change? Or or vice versa? Is it harder for newbies? Like, what's your thought there?
It just depends on the individual context, really.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
But I can see that people who've been doing it for a long time may be more resistant to change. Whereas if you're new, you're like, I don't know anything. I need to learn everything. So when you're new to something, you're really open to figuring things out and listening to other people's perspectives. Whereas when you've been doing it for a long time, that's maybe not always the case. But I think it's quite a dangerous territory to be in because, we've seen photographers who haven't really changed what they do for their entire career. And then you see, I think this year and last year, you see a lot of people online complaining about lack of bookings and lack of inquiries and people are wanting different stuff, but they're not changing what they offer or changing how they market. And you're like, well,
because you guys have spoken about this on the podcast in the past, haven't you? Like how you guys felt you were stuck in a bit of a rut, after years, and then
throughout the years, there's always been there's
every
you go
5
through
years.
it's cycles, isn't it? You get to the point and things either just slip by the wayside or get stale, and then you go, oh, that's a joke that I need to then refresh things and keep up and adapt. Yeah.
The first time around, it was like getting the mindset from like your own individual person going to weddings and doing the same thing over and over and over again to like, oh, I can actually play at weddings. And you find, like, for us, it was like finding the joy again on creating something that we actually wanted to create. Then it was a few years later, oh, we don't have any bookings again because we took our foot off the gas. Because we came out at a time, we got complacent. We came out at a time where no one else was doing it. And so we were really popular because no one else was doing it. And that would take us to Italy and all that kind of stuff and then we decided to kind of pivot the business because we didn't want to travel to Italy. And now we're struggling again because we don't know. We don't know why. Because we're focusing on certain things and now so we've had Cinemate and that's its own beast. But now I want to try and do photography at the same time. So there's this notion of wanting to do another brand, but then there's this, Greg and I are constantly having this to and fro conversation in the car to weddings, because this is where we always have our conversations about whether or not we can handle managing another brand, because that's just another thing, and we're already struggling. So not struggling, and like we're not. Yeah, we're still earning a salary. It's just still under the VAT threshold. But you can imagine what that's like when you're two separate people and having to split the below the VAT salary, between the two of us. So there's that. And so I keep going back between like, oh, well, Cinemate's an established brand, but we don't want to change the look of it because people understand what it looks like, what it feels like. And so I'm like, okay, cool. We'll just pivot to something more alternative. We'll create an alternative brand for like city elopements, because I like elopements. I still want to do that, but we never do city elopements really. And doing something that's a bit different is... So those are the two like sides of the coin there that were constantly toing and froing. And so there's just a lot going on, and we're still like figuring things out. So to figure out this problem will be an interesting thing.
Sounds like you guys. Sorry, Greg.
No, I was just going to say, like, every business is always got to be evolving, and that's we're in an evolving stage again right now. It's fun.
It is fun. Fuck it, maybe we need coaching, Greg.
That's what I was about to say. It sounds like you guys need to get some coaching.
That's right.
Yeah. Because I guess my first question to you, like having heard what you said, is like it sounds like from what you said, it sounds like you feel like you need to have another brand to be able to add the photography to it, because you don't want to change the look of Cinemate. But what is stopping you adding photography to Cinemate but still keeping the brand kind of as it is?
Oh, this is the point.
That is something that's... So we go back and forth on it all the time. But there's no reason why Cinemate can't... There can be this separate brand for specific types of things, but Cinemate can also do photo and video now. So that's something that might happen there. But then the question is, why this? Why not just have them together?
Well, in my head, creatively, Cinemate is the slow films with the mist and everything's like cinematically correct. Whereas I kind of just, there's a part of me that's like, I really like that. But I have this other part of me which is like
is wanting to scratch another creative itch.
Yeah, it's scratching the creative itch, but I want to like I almost want to just forego all the like for example, right? Back when we were struggling the second time around, the Costa sisters were coming up in popularity massively, and I always remember turning to Greg and being and saying like, we're doing all these things correctly, like all the technical term, shutter things and frame rates and all that kind of stuff, and they're shooting everything in automatic, manual, and that kind of stuff, and I'm like, why? Again, I was having that conversation. Why am I holding myself back from not leaning into the just not like forgetting all the rules? You know what I mean? Of like the technical side of things. And I feel like I still can't do that with Cinemate. I want to do it with another brand. And maybe it's because I'm scared to do it on Cinemate, because it's, we've been creating it for 15 years. And if I say to people Cinemate, they know what Cinemate is. Whereas
maybe it also comes back to the people who are established for a long time are stubborn to change. Maybe it's coming back to that point.
And I'm definitely stubborn. But yeah.
You
know what I mean? But
I guess one of the things is like when you look at your work and when other videographers, photographers look at your work, like we all know what your work is and your style. But when it comes to clients, like I guess the question is, do they always know what they're looking at? They just think this is a nice film. Like they don't think, oh, they've, broken these rules on how they should have shot this, and like I guess the question is like, does that really matter to clients at the end of the day? Because clients are the most important part of the equation, and if they see your work and think it's good, does it matter that there's slight variations?
Yeah. There's also there's the whole, like, a lot of our business comes from referrals. And I even remember, Oli, when you were starting to dabble in the video, you'd always be so tentative and apologetic around us. Like, oh, don't worry, we're not going to be like doing this. And I actually never, I never minded you wanting to ever do video. I kind of figured that's what you guys would eventually do, because why wouldn't you?
Well, likewise, right back at you, buddy.
Yeah. So, but it's still in my head. Like, I'm feeling like I'm very tentative, but then looking at other people, it's interesting. Content creators coming up and I see videographers getting kind of like, they're standing on our toes. And then videographers again on the other end being like, photographers are starting to do video as well. They're standing on our toes. I'm just like, well, if you're just going to do the same thing, you're going to end up being eaten alive in business, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you rolled out photography though, Simon, and other photographers get upset, what does that look like?
What does that look like? It maybe makes me feel bad. I would actually I don't feel guilty about many things, but I would maybe feel guilty. But then that other people's failure in business is not on me, really, is it?
No.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we had a similar kind of thing with this when we first started out, and we were thinking about pricing, and we were really worried about what we were pricing compared to other people's pricing. And we actually had like a fairly established photographer tell us like our pricing was really high and we were charging too much. And I was like, we better put our prices down then. Yeah. And then I can't remember who it was, but so we were talking to someone else and they were like, well, you can't let your own ability to earn money be held back by other people's beliefs about money. And I was like, yes, you can't. It's so the same with this, other people's beliefs, your photographer friends, like,
I would love to see I'd love to see your photography, Simon, because like your movie
it'll be terrible after 6 years of doing the podcast and me being like, photographers should do this, and if I start doing it, it'll be shit. Absolutely.
I think
it won't.
I think you're catastrophizing there. I think you've got way more knowledge on composition than you realize on using cameras. You guys are experts in this industry. Your movie stills are beautiful already. There's no reason why your stills photography wouldn't be. And it just sounds to me like you're putting barriers in the way. You're talking about separating it off into another business, but by doing that, you're creating a big barrier to actually doing it. You're almost putting some procrastination in place. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you just launched it with your Cinemate, with your Cinemate film.
Yeah.
I wonder how that would look, roll it out. And if it doesn't work, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Like people don't book it and they just book you for video.
And you can go back to...
Where's the math?
I mean, yeah. I suppose it's that referral thing again. Maybe, you know what? Every time I do say something, it is a roadblock I'm putting up,
Smash through them.
Yeah.
But
if you referrals.
I mean, referrals are great. Like we get referrals from other photographers. I'm always like super grateful for them. But I mean, it depends where your business is coming from. Like if it's all from referrals, then I understand your point. But if that is the case, then I guess the question is like, what can you do to be bringing in inquiries from other sources? I see you guys do a lot of TikTok, right? Or you did do a lot of TikTok. So, you put a lot of effort into that. Or you're talking on TikTok?
I put no effort into TikTok. There was maybe a month or two where I was recording TikTok videos.
Yeah.
But there's just the one video that I repost every now and then, and it gets like 1 million views. And then
the one with the kilt, right?
The one with the kilt.
Flapping
The
up.
one with the kilt. That gets us. I mean, the first time around, it got us like 6,000 new followers, and then so we're up at the 10K mark. But again, it's interesting.
Should we talk about some good photos?
Let's
then?
go to show and tell because we're already over.
Let's see what photographers do.
Let's see what photographers do. So, listeners, this is show and tell. Obviously, you know show and tell, but this is a little bit different because I was struggling to pick some images from Oli Steph's portfolio because there's so many good images. So I left a message with them to say, hey, can you pick out 3 images that have a good, that one look good, and 2 have a great story behind them. Greg, why is the yellow black? What's going on here, Greg?
Shouldn't be black.
It doesn't quite look like when we sent it to you.
Yellow black.
That's weird.
It looked good in the grid. It's just when you expand it though.
So the weird thing is, Greg, so we usually put a yellow border on the images. Is he got a yellow border there? Where's the yellow here? Greg's uploaded the wrong files. Yeah. It's fine. You can still see the images. It's fine, right?
Yeah, we can still talk about it.
But we'll just say Greg failed today.
This is what happens when you try and do things when you're eating breakfast.
Well, it's partly our fault because we sent you these quite late.
Yeah,
that's all right. I asked you for them late, to be honest. Yeah. Usually, like I'm doing the show and tells like weeks before I get a guest on.
Yeah.
For some reason, it didn't happen this time around. I don't know why.
Doesn't matter. It's done now.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yes. So this first image, tell us about it. Why did you pick this image for us?
Yeah, we like this one because for us, this is like very quintessential mountain elopements. So Steph and I love the mountains and the hills. We spend any free time we can get up in the hills. But also this couple, they approached us quite late. So Steph was, I think Steph was she was still working for the RSPB at this point. I think you were away in Japan or something like that. And I did the initial Zoom call just with the bride, Emma, there. And she was badass, guys. Like, she was in the Canadian Air Force, and I went on the Zoom call with her, and she was there in full camouflage. She'd obviously just broken away from the duties for a moment. And she was like, I want to get married on Skye in
9 days.
9 days' time. Can we do it?
They hadn't even booked flights.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay.
Holy shit.
Obviously, on that kind of time frame, you're looking at a symbolic ceremony. You know, you guys know this, but for any listeners, I think it's a 3-month period if you want to do it legally here in Scotland.
28 days.
28 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So we booked them, and then we're like, right, they wanted a celebrant, they wanted everything. So we were like, quick into action, getting people booked, getting everything sorted. And then the day came around, and we had this plan to do this hike, and the weather was terrible. I was like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. So we spoke to them, and we were like, you know what, guys, let's do it tomorrow. Like, we spoke with the celebrant, and that was fine. And so we did have another shoot. So we did a sunrise proposal for like 4 hours.
Surprise proposal.
Which we don't normally do this, but then we went and shot their elopement straight afterwards. And it turned out to be amazing because the weather was really good. And like this couple, like they were both in the military, and they just really loved Skye, and we just did this amazing hike. And at this point, like this is a pretty steep slope to climb up. Like most couples, we would be like, nah, don't think so. But these two were marching up there, and I just kind of love this moment where Emma was like looking back at the landscape, and Matthew kind of looking up at her with this like adoring look on his face with the kind of the clouds and the crowing.
I don't know if you guys do this, but I guess not. Sorry, because you shoot video. But for every couple we work with, after the edit, there's always like, I think of all of our couples, and there's always one image for every couple that when I think of them, I think of that image. And for these guys, it's definitely this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it just kind of showed you what you can pull together in just under a week. Like go from nothing but to here we are, we're doing it. And I just like that about elopements. You don't have to plan for a year. You can just be spontaneous and go for it.
And we've spoken to other photographers about this. It's often the spontaneity, the really spontaneous bookings, the couples that book late, they're often some of the best elopements.
Because there's less expectation, I think, from the couple. They haven't overthought it and thought this is exactly what I want to do. And then planning out the timeline hour by hour and wanting to do dinners and this and that. And these two, they just put their trust in us and like, okay, let's go. And they had a camper van. They just wrapped up, went on the hike, and this was a really fun day.
And this is a joy for us, living on Skye. This is the Kerrang, but this is actually only a 25 minute drive from where we live. So we're able to react quickly to inquiries like this and to change weather conditions.
Yeah.
Do you, when you're shooting on Skye, is it mostly the case that people always want to go to the Kerrang? And then there's a few other supplementary locations. I would say Brothers Point, maybe Brothers Point, Nice Point, Ferry Glen, Ferry Pools.
Yeah.
Are all your the store? Sorry, Old Man Store. Do all your kind of locations go around those as the main ones, or are you more like, hey, we've been out for a dog walk at the bottom of Skye, we never get to shoot here? Are you pushing couples to more remote places?
It depends on the couple. So I think it depends what they say when they come to us, because some couples, they come and they're like, seen this picture from this, and we blogged this wedding. We've had multiple other couples be like, I want that wedding. I want to do that hike and do this. I'm like, well, fine, we can do that. And a lot of couples, they see the scenery and they want specific things, and that's fine. We don't mind shooting the same place over and over again because it always looks different. The lighting, the Kerrang's massive. We go there all the time, but we go to different spots.
Honestly,
the other day we did a ceremony in a spot we'd never even been to before.
Yeah, I mean, we must have shot there hundreds of times. Seriously, and we still get excited there. We still find new angles. The light will do something different. The weather will do something. I feel like the Kerrang is very special and unique compared to all the other locations you listed like that. Obviously, the Old Manor Store, you still get angles, but really, you're kind of you're shooting in very similar spots all the time. The Kerrang, we love those classic shots on that main first ledge, but beyond that, there's so many different spots to go to, and you can react to what the weather's doing, what the tourism levels are like. And
but saying that, we do like going to other places as well on Skye, and so sometimes we'll have couples who want something like a bit quieter, something and just like different views, like they want forest or they want the ocean more,
or go up on a mountain if they're very adventurous.
So we've done some at the top of the Munros. We've been up some of the big mountains on Skye and done shoots up there. And then other people, they just want something based around like their little cottage and not go too far, go to like a little loch, do a little walk through the woods, that kind of thing as well. So we do really enjoy those days because it's something new, right? It's quite exciting to shoot somewhere different.
I mean, the amazing thing about Skye is it is a very busy, touristy, popular area in the peak seasons. But, like my mother, she came to stay with us over Easter. And she's pretty hardcore, guys. You've met her. She was around. She met you guys once. And she's 72 now, but she came up. We did a couple of Corbetts with her, so a couple of small mountains with her on Skye. She aced it. She's badass. But, both days we went out with her, even though it was the Easter week, on both mountains, we only saw one other person the whole day. So we basically, we had a mountain to ourselves on the Isle of Skye in Easter. So if you do get away from those honeypot locations, you can still find privacy on the island.
Yeah, you just need to know where to go. And I think we speak to other photographers who say, we don't shoot Skye in the summer because it's so busy. And I'm like, I do get that. It is busy in terms of tourists, but it's a big island and there's so many places where no one goes.
I think that's partly the difference living here and traveling here. Like, I have to admit, if I had to travel here from like Edinburgh or something with all the camper vans getting onto the island, that would probably put me off a bit as well.
Crazy.
I get that.
Yeah. So I think we're in same location for the next one though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are they, maybe all the ones we picked, are they all the Kerrang?
No. There's one other.
The third one is not. So this one also the Kerrang, but as you can see, it's a very different perspective on the Kerrang. It's not in the same location. And so this wedding, so one of the brides, Pippa, she's actually a wedding photographer as well. She's based down in Brighton. Like, she's a really, really great photographer. And so the story behind this one is that the year before, we'd actually done a family session for them. So we'd gone out to the Outer Hebrides and done this family session. And I think Pippa probably won't mind me saying that it didn't really go very well in terms of sessions. So we don't normally say that, but so it started off okay. Like we did some shooting and then like by some standing stones, which was really nice. Yeah. And then we're like, okay. And then they wanted to do a shoot on the beach near where they were staying. So we had to drive up there following them. And as we were driving there, they have their own van and the tyre just completely blew up.
Have you guys ever seen a tyre blow out? It was
nothing left of it.
They were driving in front of us.
I've actually seen it. No, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So we pulled over, tried to call the rescue services, like no signal. And then we finally got through and like, it'll be like 6 hours. And this was in the evening. I was like, that's not going to work. So Oli ended up on his hands and knees underneath their van trying to get the spare tyre down, but it was completely rusted onto the bottom of the van.
Oh, man.
So it took us,
we got there, but
to get the new tyre on.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's go. We still have time for sunset. We can still make it. And then we went a bit further and then they pulled over and we pulled over like, okay, what's going on? And one of the boys had been sick all over the two of them in the back seat. So I was like, oh no. And he was crying. He was sick. And we're like, you know what? Let's, you guys go back to your accommodation and we can do sunrise. Like we can come out in the morning. So we went back. We woke up at like 5 a.m. ready because we had to check out our accommodation that day. And then messaged them and they were like, you know what? He's still sick. Like it's just not going to happen. So we had to kind of leave it at that. And we always felt really bad because that's not the experience we hoped for. I mean, there was nothing to be done on that day. So then the following year, Pippa got in touch with us and said that her and Briar, her partner, wanted to elope on Skye, but they wanted to do it really quickly due to some like family health issues that, you know, I won't go into, that's their story.
Sure.
So we were like, okay, we can do it. So we'll, again, it was a pretty fast turnaround trying to get the celebrant and everything in place. And so this was on the day and we pulled up to the car park and the most amazing sunrise was kicking off. And I was like, oh my God, especially for a fellow photographer, you're always like stoked when you get good conditions.
Yeah.
And the celebrant, Caroline, she'd driven up from Glasgow and she took care of the boys while we went and took all the nice couple shots. And then we came down to the ceremony location. Turns out Caroline had actually broken her arm the day before, but hadn't got that diagnosed yet. So she was in incredible pain.
She's looking after kids with a broken arm that she just broke.
Yeah, so she's
bloody hell.
Doing the cellar, she's standing there, broken arm.
Kudos to her.
Kudos
and
to Caroline.
She didn't really let any of us know until like she was leaving at the end.
Yeah, she was like, I tried to hug her. She's like, oh God.
I mean, we have amazing celebrants here in Scotland, and that's just like testament to the efforts they go to.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So then this shot, you know, they were drinking from the quake together, and I just loved how the boys, you know, they were just doing their own thing behind, and the older boy, he was just like tweaking his brother's buttonhole and fixing, and I just really liked the symmetry and kind of the connection here, and we just felt so happy that despite kind of it not going so well the year before, we like got to this moment and they got to have this really beautiful wedding ceremony.
And I think that's the important thing about wedding photography and elopements, right? Like obviously we could just pick out 3 really epic landscape shots and they had plenty of them in their gallery, but you know, this is probably the image that we really remember from their wedding because it was just such a beautiful, tender moment, right?
Yeah, it's so cute.
Yeah. On a technical level, because we haven't talked about your gear other than your C80. Your C80. Talk to me about what you're using in terms of like your camera gear that's survivable for elopements.
Okay.
Just because people ask about, can you get something because it's waterproof and you know.
Yeah. I'll let you take this one.
Well, back then,
just like that.
Yeah, so we used to shoot, and this is when we were both shooting still, so I don't think we were shooting film, or maybe we were starting to. Anyway, we both used to have 2 cameras each. So at one point we had 4 Canon R6s, and typically we both have a 35 1.4, the old EF Canon lens, and an 85 each.
And I had the
RF.
50.
You had a 50, I had an 85, that's right. And then at some point we decided to simplify things and we went, you know, zoom lenses have come on so much. And I think you went first, didn't you? You bought so Steph got the 24-105 RF lens. It's a beautiful lens. It's really aimed more at video, which is part of the reason we got it, because we could use it for both. And I got the really big, heavy 2870 f2.
That's what I've got.
And so, and eventually, I remember talking to you, Simon, all the time, being like, I just want an R3 so bad. Please, Steph, let me get an R3. And she wouldn't. And you were like, please, Greg, let me get an R3.
That's right.
And after years, Steph did cave, and so I got the R3. So now we typically just use so Steph still shoots on an R6 II. I'm on the R3 for stills, C80 for film. We use the 24-105 for film and the 2470 for the stills. But we also keep our fleet. We've kept our fleet of EF lenses because we love lens flare, and some of those EF lenses give you beautiful lens flare. That's partly because we're massive groupies of Gabe McClintock. We love the flare he gets. And so sometimes we're trying to replicate that little bit of sunrise sunset. We'll pull them out. In terms of weatherproofing, so like the C80, obviously the fans are open on there. So if I have to film, I'll switch to the R3 for film. But, we do have this tip we should give your listeners. So we invested in these guards. I'm looking around. I don't know if I can grab one, but they're by Think Tank, and it's like a waterproof. You get those cheap socks, which is like just a plastic bag essentially. Yep. It's kind of like an upscale version of that. So it's made of material. It clips onto the hot shoe at the top, and then there's like a plastic window on the back. You have to be careful. We have like a quick setting on our cameras so that we can lock off the optical viewfinder, because it only really works if you're using the LCD on the back. But if, we'll try and move people's shoots around as much as we can to avoid a bad weather. But sometimes, what it's like, guys, you can get like 5 days straight of torrential rain. So if we have to shoot in the rain, we're getting those Think Tank guards out. They help us a lot.
Yeah. And I think, cameras hold up a lot better than you'd expect. Yeah. Remember before we did wedding photography, I used to be so precious about my camera. I didn't even taking the lens off outside. I'd be like, I don't want to get any dust in it. And now it's just so, they get soaked all the time, but sometimes the screens will start working, but they always, touch wood, dried out and continue to work. As
a wedding photographer, you do have a responsibility to make sure you got the gear. So we always have backup gear with us for when those cameras shut down. And we're always trying to think of contingencies. What happens if it happens in a critical moment? Are we ready to react very fast? We also, another tip I'd give your listeners is we're vegetarian, so we don't love it, but chamois leathers are very good for drying cameras off. So we take a couple of chamois with us. They're always
not for the lens though, the front of the lens. Don't try and wipe your front of your lens with a chamois leather.
Just for the body itself, because it has residual oil in it.
Yes, absolutely. Watch out with those covers. We had a few of them. I don't know if these ones do it, but because your camera generates heat, if you're shooting a ceremony or whatever and it's raining, they can steam up on the inside.
Good tip.
But
we had an emergency once on a shoot. Danny and Macy's, they might listen to this because we're really good friends, but it doesn't matter because we got through it. We went to meet them at their accommodation, and I packed the day before and I plan everything out. That's just how I work. But I'd left the cameras in the car the night before, and then we drove. This is winter, and we drove to their accommodation. And I should bloody know this because I've shot in Antarctica and I've left camera bag. I literally at the South Pole, I actually left my camera bag in a container in the ice and didn't bring it into tents, so that it didn't warm up. But I forgot that lesson, and we drove to Macy and Danny's, got into their accommodation, pulled the camera bags, all the cameras immediately steamed up. Luckily, one of them steamed down, or unsteamed, talking gibberish. Cleaned up quick enough, and we were able to shoot the prep well, and then it all worked out. But that was an important lesson. So we're always a bit wary.
It's a major issue in winter, bringing cameras out of the cold into the warm.
To the point where we'll sometimes take separate gear. If we know that's going to happen, we'll shoot on our, we still got R6s, so we'll sometimes take them as well.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, because that is a trouble. That is a trouble. In fact, I made a joke in the last podcast where it's like Scotland's known for their dark and moody and misty photography. That's because our cameras are always steaming up. It's just a filter.
It's just
you know what? Actually, that's the point. One of the reasons we moved away from Pro Mist because we wanted a different look from everyone else using Pro Mist. But actually, there was one wedding where we shot Pro Mist and it got wet. Those things, when they're wet, they're dangerous.
They are.
Yeah.
Just
like the bleeding. Oh my gosh.
Right, so this final image, Loch Carusk.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we've been there with you guys before, right?
We have.
Yeah.
Did we hiked up the back, didn't we?
Not quite.
So it's more like below where you can see the the front of the image.
We've definitely had a ceremony down here.
Yeah, down there.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Joe and Steve.
We hiked up with Katie and Jim. We didn't hike up with Oli Steph.
Sing the Katie and Jim song.
Was it with you guys that Greg fell in the river? Crossing over?
No. I don't think so.
No, that wasn't with us.
I don't remember that.
That was funny.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no. So this was a bit more epic, guys, this one. So Shay and Isaac, when they reached out to us, they told us how they hiked the Appalachian Trail together.
That's where they met.
Which is an epic hike.
6-month hike across the US.
So we knew that these guys, they're the real deal when they said they wanted to be up in the mountains for their elopement. And so we planned it out we actually hiked out from, what's it called? Is it
Kilmarie. So it took us 5 hours to hike across, over one hill, across the beach and then up to the top of this mountain. And it included crossing a stream. We all had to take our shoes and socks off and wade through the freezing cold water.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it was worth it. So we had planned to shoot their ceremony in the evening.
No,
at sunrise in the morning after camping out and bivvying on the top of Skernistry, this mountain. Mm-hmm. But we saw as the day was going on that the conditions were really changing and the morning wasn't looking great. So when we got up there, Shay and Isaac, they got changed in their tents. We took Isaac out to this ledge and they had their first look on the top of Skernistry, looking over Loch Carusk. Mm-hmm. There was some lovely, moody weather around.
Yeah.
And
this looks pretty dark and moody, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it's because of the weather.
When we get dark and moody, we lean into it. Yeah,
exactly.
And for us, it's probably still the most epic first look we've ever shot. And their whole wedding was just unforgettable. They were a lovely couple as well. We got on so well with them to the point where we actually went on holiday with them last year, and we went hiking together in the Dolomites for a week.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
But just after their first look, the plan was, okay, do the first look, then we'll do the ceremony straight away. And we had Ashton, the celebrant, up there with us. He was come for that. And so
he's a mountain goat.
Just as we were about to start, we saw this massive wall of rain coming straight towards us. And it was pretty windy. You can kind of see from her dress. And I was and this was in the middle of May. I was like, come on, where's the good weather? So we were like, right, guys, we're going to put you into our emergency shelter. So we had them in this giant orange bag, basically. It could only fit 2. So they were in there together. And we could just hear them giggling inside as the 3 of us just stood there, braced in the weather, getting whacked in the face by the rain.
Well, they had their wedding gear on at this point.
We didn't want them to
ready
get
for the
soaked.
ceremony. We didn't want to start the ceremony with them soaking wet.
Yeah. So that blew through, and then they emerged from their orange bag and then had their beautiful ceremony up the top. And that kind of, it's super important to be prepared for weddings like this, because if you go up there with nothing, you can get into some real dire situations. And I think that's something people don't talk about that much with mountain elopements. You do need to be fully prepared going up there, because couples often they're wearing a wedding dress, they're not in outdoor clothing.
Especially
they might not bring the right stuff.
Especially in the Scottish mountains. Steph and I, we did there's an award you can do, it's called the Mountain Leader Award. We did our training, I did one a few years, you did yours ages ago, and we're both booked in for our assessments this summer. You have to log 40 Scottish or UK mountain days, and then you go off for a week's assessment. So we're both going for that. But during my training, I actually brought the picture up on this. They were talking about emergency shelters and asking if anyone had real life situations. So I brought up the picture of Shay and Isaac huddled in the emergency shelter, and that went down well.
Yeah.
We're always really, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, I remember you posting on your reels somewhere the behind the scenes of this. I did want to pick this wedding. Knowing that backstory, I couldn't remember which one it was, but obviously the location speaks for itself.
Yeah. Wow. You would have liked it, Simon. There was a lot of whiskey drinking at the end of the day, sitting outside the tents. It's like a whole bottle gone.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: I'm not drinking as much as I did. If we have to stay over before a wedding, Greg's always having a few pints. I'm on the non-alcoholic beers.
Just throw me under the bus there.
I'm sorry.
I've only turned up at a wedding
Everyone's
hungover
feeling
once.
judged right now.
I used to show up to every wedding with my flask. Full of whiskies, but
you guys gift whiskey as well to the clients, don't you?
Yeah.
To the
we
couples.
do. In fact, you guys will like our new boxes. I don't think we've got any here.
Send us one. We'll have one.
For the
You can't send them. They're too heavy.
They're full whiskey barrel wooden boxes that we give to every one of our couples.
Wow.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, just we've been wanting to do it for years. And we ran out of our old branding boxes, and I was like, you know what? Let's just get something a little bit more luxurious.
Yeah. When you tally up how much that gift is that we're given, it's an expensive gift. Like we've invested in this, but it levels up what we're offering. It levels up why they're paying for it. Like they don't know, they don't particularly know they're getting that, but when they get it, it makes them feel like they've got a really good service. Yeah.
Blows their expectations.
And they'll shout about that, right, as well. You know, they'll tell everyone about that.
Here's one business thing, actually, because I've thought about this. Talking about like that gift in particular, would it be a good business decision to tell people that we give this box, or just show up and be like, hey, here's the gift? And it's a surprise.
I think from a business decision, telling people they're going to get it is better. Because people who are looking to book would be like, oh, look, that's so cool. You get like a whiskey thing. Like, and if you don't talk about it, then it's for new clients. Unknown. It's not in any, they don't know that. So they can't make a judgment based on that. Whereas if they do know it, then it's not a surprise when they get it, but it could be one of the factors that actually like tips them in your favor rather than another videographer. And, you know, if it costs you a lot of money, then it has to be worth it in terms of bringing you in more business. Like, it's nice to give gifts and everything, but going back to profitability, you know, that's one thing I'd be like, right away, I'd be like, well, if you're not profitable, then maybe giving away expensive gifts, if it's not bringing more
also, like the energy involved in doing that and stuff, maybe that's better put into another part of the process with the couple.
And like, you know, we used to do gifts, like pre-wedding gifts, and we'd ship them to America, and like it was good, like like embroidered blankets and other stuff. But we just found that it was costing us so much money to post them out there and send it, and then a lot of the times, like the couples are grateful that they got it, but then they wouldn't necessarily bring the blanket because it's maybe not the color that they would have chosen for themselves for their wedding. And so we just kind of felt like, actually, you know what, this isn't adding a great deal. And we'd rather add value in terms of giving them information more on and helping them with the planning side more than giving them a gift. Because, you know, like
it's time consuming.
Yeah, it's time consuming, and we didn't feel like it was bringing much value.
Yeah, exactly.
But the whiskey sound, I mean, I don't like whiskey, so I'd be like, thanks. But Ollie would drink it.
Ollie would love it.
Is that something you do? Do you have to like ask if they drink? Because, you know, we get a lot more couples these days who don't drink.
Yeah, we have started to try and at least suss out if they're teetotal or if they drink. It doesn't matter if they like whiskey or not, because we're still going to give them whiskey. Like it's Scotland.
Right?
There's reasons why we give it, and there'll be something they can have on their anniversary, even if they don't like it. But there's been a couple where we've been like found out either on the wedding day or whatever that they don't drink. And you're like, oh shit, like we can't give them that then. What? Oh no. So nowadays on video calls we try and slip it into the conversation and find out.
Do you like drinking?
But it's very subtle. Like, oh, you're doing a quick ceremony. Oh, what are you putting in the because we've had a few.
Yeah, it's a clever way to ascertain that for sure.
Yeah, there's been a few couples who have gone with our recommendation of whiskies, and I've loved it. And then we show up with that whiskey or whatever, and again, it just ties into that. You know, when they open this bottle in like 20 years' time, if it's still got whiskey in it. Whiskey bottles last that long? I don't know.
I reckon. If you didn't drink
not
it.
in my house.
I heard,
it just ties into that kind of, you know, experience. Anyway.
See
how I'm sneaking in some free coaching, Greg? See how I'm doing that? Thanks, guys.
So, in wrapping up, guys, you've already mentioned one book earlier. Do you have any other book recommendations for our listeners?
Well, Steph's book was Eat the Frog.
Eat the Frog.
By Brian Tracy. My book, guys, I chose, so it's called Real Artists Don't Starve. It's by Jeff Goins. I remember when I read this, I actually put an Instagram story and he put it out as well. I was like, oh my God, the author's But no, this is great for any listeners who are struggling to like embrace that business side. You know, we talked about that balance and that scale of business versus artistry. If you feel you're like way down on the artistry side, this is probably the book for you. When Nina and Derek stayed, I actually made them take the book away to study.
Take this.
I'd say it's essential reading for anyone early in their business or anyone struggling with that side of it. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Because I think the thing is that you can be an artist, but if no one's paying you and you can't pay your bills, you can't be an artist forever. You're going to have to do something else.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you need to get that business side so you can continue your artistry.
And then beyond that, just be really curious with like business books, marketing books, podcasts as well. Obviously, listen to Perspective first, but
Indeed.
Absolutely, what a great podcast. And by the way, we'll finish up this podcast with the acknowledgement that you won 3 awards from Way Up North.
Oh yeah,
which we didn't even talk about your accolades. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? And then we'll go, because we're actually over time, so I do apologize, guys.
Okay, that's all right.
I would say, like, with competitions, I don't know, like, we have egos. We've all got egos, right? And it is lovely to win competitions, but I don't know, I think too many people focus on, you know, we've talked about business and so many things that are more important, right? Like, we would rather get a good client review than winning an award. But obviously it's still nice to have your ego stroked. And
it was quite nice because this was the first time we ever went to Way Up North. So we went to Berlin a couple of months ago, and it was actually really fun to meet photographers from all over Europe and from the US as well. So it was really nice at that moment to like see our pictures up there, and like Rainey was there, Rainey Rao, and the Carols, and like everyone won some images. So it was really nice to like share that, have the Scottish contingent kind of there. And we're looking forward actually, because I know you guys won the competition right for the free tickets to Way Up North.
That's so sick. We can't wait to hang out with you.
So we're going to do that too in Stockholm.
We've all got to go to Stockholm to be able to hang out together.
Susie was there as well. She's lovely.
You and
guys,
Joe Greenfield,
Susie
Lisa. So we're looking forward to that. But I mean, it's obviously, like Oli said, it's really nice to win some photography prizes. But for us, I think it's definitely the reviews are more important from the clients.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what, guys? Like, we would like to finish the podcast by acknowledging you two and Perspective as a podcast. I've been a super fan of your podcast from the start. I think what you guys have done for the UK wedding industry, like having this free podcast and the amount of people, you've stayed so consistent. I've seen so many podcasts fall in the time that you've been doing this. You've been a big influence for us and for our business. The amount of times we've listened to your podcast driving back from shoots. And
driving to Cambridge, we can listen to like 5 episodes.
So we want you to know that we appreciate you, and you are appreciated in this industry for sure. What you do is amazing.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Made me a little bit teary there. Thank you.
Where can people find you guys online and find Vow to Succeed coaching?
Yeah, so our websites. So it's just oliandsteph.com. So that's OLI and Steph, STEPH. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok as well. We're not very good on TikTok, but we're on there. So it's Oli and Steph, and I think it's Oli and Steph Photography on TikTok. And then Vow to Succeed. So we've got our website, which is vowtosucceedcoaching.com. And the socials are still incoming because we're still working on that. But for us, our website's the main one, and then just reach out on Instagram if you have any particular questions. We're on there more than we should be, probably.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Definitely go and check that out. And if you're looking for coaching, yes, they seem to know their stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm going to go away and just be like, yep, I'm going to reassess my whole life. And,
we want to coach you.
People can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com, our Instagram at Perspective by Cinemate, on YouTube. I was going to say TikTok, but that's not right. Thank you with Jack and Pick Time for sponsoring another episode of this podcast. Thank you very much. And if you're listening out there and you've thought, you know what, this was a bloody good conversation, I'm going to make some changes in my life. The first change you should make is hit that subscribe button. I really hate telling people to subscribe, but push all those buttons because, it helps us get to more ears. We are wherever you get your podcasts, and we hope to see you in the next one. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your life.